Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weissoon. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smoking techs, electric smokers, feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for that nice introduction, and it is campfire talk time with Mr. Larry Weissoon. A lot of you get around the old wood stove or the campfire, and let's have a good hunting visit with Mr. Whitetail. Larry, thank you for being with us, buddy.
Always a pleasure, Luke, and I really appreciate the comments about the campfire and also about the old wood stove. Doing so brings back a lot of memories, but we've got to thank Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. I mean, we've been putting their ammo to really good use, and got a few more plans coming up here very shortly as well. Stealth Vision, of course, makes some of the finest optics there are to be had anywhere, and they're headquartered right there in Crockett, Texas. And need to mention Taurus. I've got a hunt coming up or two that I'm still going to be hunting a little bit late in the season with Taurus Raging Hunter handguns, and kind of really looking forward to those hunts. But also really mention DSC. Now, I want to remind folks it's conservation, education, hunter advocacy, and invite everybody that hadn't already made plans to be at the February 6th, 7th, and 8th convention there in Atlanta, Georgia. And absolutely great time, great place to visit with so many different people. Make plans for the next hunt that you're going to do. And, if you're like me, I'll walk those aisles and knowing that I can't make some of those hunts anymore, but they keep me from dreaming about them. So it's a great place to visit with folks, and you're just not going to find a better organization out there that supports the outdoor and the outdoor lifestyle and hunting. So, we've got a hunt coming up here in the next few days. They're moving very quickly, actually.
We do, Larry. After the first of the year, I wrote my newspaper column this past week about the fun stuff that I always look forward to at the turn of the year when the new year's coming up. And one of those things, I always like to think of a late season hunt, as a opening day hunt. Why not? I mean, you and I have a deer hunt coming up together, and it's the tail end of deer season. I'm going to be doing some muzzleloader hunting with my CVA. I've got a CVA Optima. It's a really good muzzleloader, by the way. But I'm going to be loading it up and taking advantage of the late season here in Texas for the muzzleloader. But I don't know. It's just kind of fun to think of a late season hunt. You look back, it seemed like a long time ago when you and I and Jeff Rice with Don Gresham up near Forestburg in Montague County, when we opened the deer season this year, seemed like it, looking back, was a long time ago. But what do you say we just designate this next hunt as the opening day? Why not? It'd be kind of fun,
Well, it is. It's opening day to the 2026.
That's it. So the first official.
It's the first official deer hunt that we're going to do in 2026, which will hopefully turn into many more for the years over with. But you're exactly right. I've got a series of guns I'm taking. We're trying to finish up taking a number of does, selection management bucks, and those kind of things to be taken over in Becker Bottoms, just east of Dallas, a little way with the Cotton family. And, these late seasons, particularly for does, what I like to do is I like to shoot different guns, and you like to shoot different style of guns as well, too. You're going to be hunting with a muzzleloader, and, of course, the muzzleloader season will be going on, but also still the Texas Managed Land Deer Permit season will be going on. So I'm going to be hunting with a series of rifles. I've got an 0300 Savage Model 99 that I'm taking, and I'm going to be hunting with it, and got oh gosh, a couple of other guns. I really love the old Ruger #1 guns, and I've got two of them that I'm taking with me. One it was built like in, gosh, I can't even remember. It's like in the early '60s, late '50s, somewhere along and through there, right after Bill Ruger first came out with the Ruger #1, and it's in a 270. And then more recently, I bought. I've always been enamored with some of the old African cartridges, and one of them being the 9.3 by 62. I've got it in what they call the RSI, which is their international, which it has that stock that runs like a Mannlicher stock all the way to the end. So I've got some really good quantity ammo for both those, and of course I have my handgun with me as well too, and a 454 Casull. So it's an opportunity to try different things, and I find these, if you will, first of the year seasons a good time. If somebody's never been into muzzle loading, maybe they want to try a muzzleloader. Well, this is an ideal time. There's not a whole lot of pressure about taking a deer. You're not hunting, for bucks. You're hunting for does. And so it's a great time to do that. If you have an opportunity in some of these counties that we have in Texas or elsewhere in some of the other states to hunt, try some different ammunition. Try that new rifle that you've been wanting to try. Try a handgun. Handgun hunting is an absolute blast, in literally and figuratively, I guess both. But it's a great opportunity to try those things. Put some more venison in the freezer as well too.
You bet it is, Larry. I've always, not always, but from the time I was probably in my 30s, I like to try different styles of hunting, like you say. And just about, I don't know, a little over a week ago, I shot a nice buck with a 51 caliber air rifle. So it's fun, and it is a challenge. I challenge myself honestly to stay proficient with the stuff I hunt with, and sometimes that is a challenge. You got my bow, your compound bow. I'm not a serious. That's not like all I do, but like once a week I'll get out there and I may shoot 10 arrows, but I know my sight pins are right, and I could go hunting with it. And the air guns, they're a whole different animal. Some of them are stronger than others, and knowing the limitations of them, what you can and can't do, or what you can and can't do ethically, and that I'm all about. The closer, the better. So and muzzle loaders, and I go back. You were one of my first. I think I remember watching you shooting the TCs, and I was probably 30 when I first started hunting with muzzle loaders. But that's all I did for about, I don't know, six years or so. I was all about muzzle loaders, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and learned that if I learned the capabilities and limitations of a muzzle loader, which nowadays is pretty much not too many limitations with the modern one, Yeah, so I don't know. It's fun to be challenged, and it gives me something to do. I'm lucky to live at a place out here where I can, within 8 minutes I can be in a stand hunting hogs, from where I live, and it's just fun. And each year, then we got so much coming up in the hog hunting. My gosh. I like to hunt them all year round, but I really don't like to be out swatting mosquitoes and all that when it's 90 degrees or more in the evenings. But if there were an official hog hunting time, Larry, it would be right now, and for several reasons too. Corn feeders are one of them, aren't they? After the close of deer season.
Exactly. A lot of people leave those feeders running, and rightfully so. And there's so many hogs scattered around across. And it tickles me, is, here in Texas, where, of course, this becomes a podcast as well, too, once it's aired on all the fantastic radio stations that you're involved with. But, hogs are pretty much universal these days, seem like. So great opportunities coming up there, and it's a way to help try to remove a number of hogs that are there. And so, yes, hog hunting coming up. Muzzleloader's perfect way to do that. Handgun, if you're into archery and crossbows, or you're thinking you want to shoot a crossbow in the future, that's a great way to get into it. So, as you mentioned, so many great things coming up. I'm very fortunate. I'm going to be going down to Mexico on a Coues whitetail hunt in here in about a week or 10 days. And anxious to get back down there. Those little Coos whitetail, we're hunting at about 7,000 to 8,000 feet down in the mountains in Mexico at the far end of the Sierra Madres. And so that's a hunt that we set up through DSC some time ago. And again, want to come back to the DSC convention. And, what a great place to go and spend time. And like I say, you can book a hunt, you can dream. Usually the best hunting equipment in the world is there. Stealth Vision is going to be there and be involved in a scavenger hunt this year as far as the children that are coming to the event as well,
good,
too.
good.
So, lots of great things coming up, and this is such a great time to start planning for the fall. And, a lot of people are on hunting leases and are looking at places to go. And this is the time to do that. Get ready for the fall right now. Try those new guns, try the new ways, and just really enjoy. And in the process of it, put some excellent venison and some excellent pork in the freezer as well, too.
That's right. Well, I want to ask you a question now. Of course, folks, one of Larry's, I will say not one of, Larry's signature dish, as far as I'm concerned, to cook at camp is grilled chicken thighs. He takes a little, very sharp knife, one of his whitetail knives, and bones them out, removes the bone, and that makes a chicken thigh flatter. And it cooks quick and leave the skin on. Now, I've got in the freezer, I've got a big packet. My question is, I've got a big package of them, like a jumbo deal, a bunch of them. Should I, for our upcoming hunt here in a matter of very shortly, put it that way, do I need to defrost those and get them ready? I've got them.
I'll tell you what, save them for another time.
Okay.
Because last time when I was on the Cotton Ranch, I think I brought about 30 of those and put them, in about 5 or 6 per package and froze them.
Okay.
They're already boning. And really, a lot of people, they say, "Oh man, you shouldn't eat the skin." Well, I'll leave the skin on. You can always take it off after it's finished because it keeps that meat a whole lot moister and all that kind of stuff. And then a lot of folks like to just eat the chicken skin as well. Too.
Look here. That's my primary part. It gives it the flavor. So maybe it's not healthy. I don't know, but
I'll take my chances.
I will too, man. That crispy and it just kind of bastes that chicken. Tell them we've got time. Tell them how it's real simple, but I don't know. I've tried it and it's okay when I cook it, but it does not seem to be as good as yours. I don't know. Tell them how to do it.
Basically, it's very simple. I debone it and then kind of lay it out before I get ready to put it on a hot grill. Mm-hmm. And I like a really hot fire. Yeah. But I basically use Cavendish seasoning, occasionally some other seasoning as well too, if it's available. We've tried it with all kinds of different seasoning, and then just put it on the grill and not continually, but every maybe 30 seconds to 45 seconds, turn it to where you just continually turning it, and you can tell when that meat becomes a little bit firmer, compared to when it was freshly put on. That's about the time that you really want to pull it off, because you don't want to overcook it. And the whole process, once it gets going, doesn't take but about maybe 10 minutes at the very most, and it's still your temperature inside of that chicken is well over 180 degrees, and it's cooked all the way through, and it can be done so quickly. A lot of times when you're in a hunting camp and you don't want to spend a whole lot of time cooking, you want to spend time visiting, just get around the campfire, put that grill on, and guess what? You'll be finished in 10 or 15 minutes. You'll be eating. So people will go, "Well, we just started the store," and you go, "Well, the chicken's done, guys."
That's right. And what I've noticed, of course, there's usually several of us, eating there. Right. You'll kind of rotate it. By the time you start flipping those things, when you get back around to that first one you flipped, it's been 30 seconds. You just kind of. Then cooking over those coals, you watch the hot spots and flip them around. No, that's a good way to man, I tell you what, I'm about ready to build a fire right now and get some chicken thighs going. Larry, we're out of time. Thanks a lot for being with us. This year, if I'm not mistaken, starts our 2 decades.
Yes, sir.
We can now start saying we're working on 20 years of us doing this.
I love it.
It does not seem possible, but it has been that long. And I've been doing radio for about 20 years and 6 months. You know, you helped me out when we first got started. I really appreciate that, Larry. I do.
Well, it is I who appreciate, and I appreciate everybody that's listening to us. And please tell other folks about us and join us right back here around the campfire and around Luke's radio show.
That's right, Larry. And folks, do remember, I want to thank all these radio stations from Georgia to North Arkansas, all over. But after this is done, it becomes a podcast on iHeart, Spotify, Apple, all those things. So, you know, if you miss something, you can always go to, Catfish Radio with Luke Clayton and friends, and you can listen to it again. Happy New Year, everybody. Folks, I want to introduce you to Vineyard Max. Now, this is an awesome deer attractant, a food attractant that's made with hammer-milled grape skin, dried hammer-milled grape skins. It has a mixture of rice bran and also corn chops. Very effective. Deer can smell the scent of grapes from a long way, and it brings them in. I've used it in West Texas out with Larry Weissoon, and we were out there where deer are not even exposed to grapes, and they came right in. Also, Vineyard Max has a very good line of game and fish feeders. Check them out online, vineyardmax.net. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weissoon is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Luke, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34-millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is leveled because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well too, and a whole lot of other products. And folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
Folks, this segment is made possible by Smoking Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time. I want to tell you about a one-stop shop for everything related to game feeders and fish feeders, Ultramatic feeders. I've been using components and feeders from Ultramatic feeders for 20-something years, I guess. They have the remote, which you can remotely activate your feeder with, the timer, which is the most simple timer that I've ever found on a game feeder, and then the eliminator. Check these out. They are worked on centrifugal force, and they seal off the corn supply so coons and squirrels can't get to the corn. Check them out. Ultramatic feeders, you could go online to ultramaticfeeders.com. Well, friends, what do you say we pack up the old pickup and our Jeep or whatever we're driving and head up to beautiful Lake Texoma, up on the Texas-Oklahoma border, the lake that is chock full of stripers. I hear Mr. Bill Carey at the dock right now. Maybe he's at the dock. Bill, are you at your home there near the lake or at the dock? I might have heard Captain Caw in the background, our pet crow. I don't know.
He's probably just waking up. No, we go out at 9 o'clock this time of year. By the way, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Bill. Good morning. Bill Carey with Striper Express, folks. We're gonna talk about catching big stripers, which is what happens this time of the year up at Texoma, isn't it, Bill?
It's what we like to do. We've always targeted the trophies.
Yep. And anybody that says you're always going to catch a trophy whatever or shoot a trophy whatever just hadn't been kicking around the outdoors as long as we have. But the truth of the matter is, Bill, right now is prime time for catching those big old fat, heavy stripers. I mean, wintertime is the time for not only trophy deer hunting in the fall, but trophy striper catching too, right?
Oh, yes, sir. This is when we pull out it's the wolf jig. It's the people who made the Roadrunner jig for Blakemore. And we deal with we're sponsored now by Wolf.
Yep.
Not many people know them, but they have their own online tackle store, and they make the Roadrunner, and that's what we use.
That's a bait that you downsize it. It's an awesome bait for creek fishing, for spawning white bass. I mean, I guess as many fish have been caught on Roadrunners as just about any bait that I know of. So let's talk about targeting let's concentrate on ways to target big stripers, and in the process, you're also going to catch what we call box fish. Fish under like 20 inches. So, roadrunners, right? And are you going to? I do know the gulls, the birds are there in numbers, and at times I have caught big stripers. By big, I'm talking about 10-pound plus. I have caught them under the birds in the wintertime. So it's not all schooling smaller fish under those gulls, is it, Bill?
That's right. It's something that, I don't know, I started having about 5 years ago. We started pulling really nice fish under the birds, and it's a good way to put a bunch of fish in the box. Now, they're still doing it.
Yeah.
I've got to tell y'all, though, that after, in about 2 weeks, those birds will start lying to you. It will be maybe one or two fish that get a ball of shad spooked, and the birds will see it, and they'll come in, and you go in there and look at it, and their metabolisms are slowing down, and it was just a few fish, because they'll work good for you in October and November and December. And by the end of January, you got to watch it. They'll lie to you.
And that's something that you learn by 40 years of being out there on the water, Bill. Yeah. But, you see birds hovering over the water. Bingo, there's fish here. Well, there maybe, like you say, there were fish there, a few, but it's not as concentrated as it was back in the fall and early part of the winter. I know that you, on warm days, a lot of times I fished with you guys so much in the wintertime, those big stripers, they pull up in some shallower water too.
That's right.
I know that you target that kind. That's a pattern that you do at times, right?
That's what we love to do. I tell you what we do, folks, is we structure fish. We run routes where there's deep water access. Just like when you drive, you get up on that highway and you get off that highway. These fish got to have a way to come up into that 5 to 10 foot water and then move back down off of it. And there won't be but maybe 3-4 fish. You'll see them on your depth finder hanging, and they're ambush feeders, and they're always big.
Yeah, it's just a pattern. One thing that is popular and deadly is thumping, and a lot of our friends have no idea. A lot of any serious winter fisherman that fishes for schooling fish knows what I'm talking about. But describe that and why thumping works, Bill. It does work, by the way.
Oh, mercy, it does. Now, there's 3 or 4 people that make these things, folks, and it's a ammo box or a battery box, and they buy a motor that does windshield wipers, and they put a cam on the end of that shaft, and that cam raises a hammer, and it drops it, and it strikes a plate, whether wood or metal, and it just strikes it, and you have a volume switch, and in the winter we turn it down to 1 per second, just I'm not going to start making thumping noises, but it thumps and it hammers. And in the summer, you can use it and speed it up where it's faster. But what it is stripers are curious creatures. They're schooling fish. And you can turn that thing on, and you can see your depth finder, actually fish finder, light up with fish. It's just amazing.
It is, and it's a method that's been used for eons. Disturbances in the water. I don't know if the fish is saying, "Hey, my buddies are eating," or if they're curious. I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows why it turns them on, if you will. But I think it has to do with feeding, with food, and they hear that thump, 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 and that's that rubber mallet hitting a striker, folks. And I remember back in the day, we'd take a fish with guides that. One old boy had a walking stick with a rubber tip on the end of it, and you just thump it on the boat. We were fishing with Captain Tim, was it, a year ago out there, and this was it was kind of comical, but it had the one of those sticks with some type of tip on it, and then that and the thumper too, and then he would have a special little dance. And I thought, this is funny. I got a kick out of that. But just stomping, not really trying to knock the bottom out of the boat, but just thumping your heels on the bottom of the boat, and I started doing it. And I'll be, every time you start doing that, and those you'd watch the graph. Here they came. So thumping works. A lot of people also employ a little prop, a little old economical, cheap price trolling motor that's just at the surface, and it makes a surface disturbance. Well, the shock waves, or the sound waves, I should say, go down into the water, and it triggers the bite. So the road runners, I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's think about just a little bit about dead sticking, and that's the process of dropping a bait down and pretty much holding it, because the fish are not real active. They're not on the run. Would a road runner be a good bait on that, or do you like to use it when it's moving? What would be a good dead sticking bait? Your favorite?
Well, that's a good question. You know what we use? I call them circus colors: bright reds, oranges, yellows, greens, and we like to do an 1.5 ounce to a 2 ounce jig. And that's a good question, because we put a 4 to a 5 inch sassy tail on them, and we don't go to the sassy tail this time of year because it causes more vibration than you want. But when you're dead sticking, the lure is just hanging. Yeah. So I guess that tail is just paddling the speed of the drift, and it's not as fast as you were reeling it. So yeah, we put a 4 to 5 inch white glow, or some of the guys use a fluke, because that's what we use when we're casting that straight tail. It's all about vibration and what the fish want, because their metabolism slows down this time of year. But I call them circus colors. Yeah. Oh, I got a mess of them. And it's a great tool. It's another secret weapon in the winter. If they're not on structure and they're not biting good and they're not under the birds, you can dead stick and catch those fish.
And it's a lethal method this time of year, no doubt about it. Bill, your trips now begin about after the sun comes up in the mornings. You're not out there to break it during the winter, are you?
Yes, sir. We did it for 30 years at 10:30 in the morning, and then my boys don't watch the clock. That's what I tell them. Yeah. What makes us different is if the fish are biting at quitting time, who leaves biting fish? We don't. And who does? That's silly. But so after 3:30, when it's quitting time, if they get on fish, they'll stay. And they changed it to 9 a.m. because they were cleaning fish in the dark. Yeah. And their hands would get cold. Yeah. So now it's 9 a.m. I've been having a problem for 2 years getting used to it, because it was 10:30 forever. But no, we board the part at 9, all for the right reasons. The water temperature is cool, and the fish are feeding all day. And it's a simple drive for most. You get a little more sleep, and 2 hours of solar heat on your back by the time you get out there is welcomed on a cool January day.
You bet. Bill, let's do this. Let's connect everybody with Striper Express that can come up and want to have the chance of catching the biggest striper of your life, and it is prime time. You can Striper Express, you're easy to find just about anywhere, but what's a number folks could call you and talk to you?
All right. Sure. You can call us anytime, folks, at 903-786-4477.
Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smoking Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smoking Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at smokingtex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. For seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com.
Big Sam left Seattle in the year of 92 with George Pratt, his partner, and brother Billy too. They crossed the
Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy Mr. Justin Rudd and his team of experts, and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramid Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Well, friends, our next guest is Mr. Mark Loomis. Now, I've known Mark for several years. Mark is now the current Kaufman County wild hog buyer, and he's been in training he's been doing this, I say in training, he's been working in this field for a long time, several years, with Mr. Stephen Wall, who was another good friend of mine. Stephen passed away a couple of months ago, something like that. But Mark, thank you, buddy, for being with us, and I'm sure glad that there's a wild hog buyer in Kaufman County. I'm glad that you're carrying on the tradition that you and Stephen Wall started.
Yeah, well, I sure appreciate being on here. Luke, it's just an honor. But yeah, Stephen, I guess he started about 9-10 years ago.
Yep.
He come by my house one time to borrow a screw. I hadn't seen him in 10 years.
Yeah.
And I said, I said, okay, here. I said, man, you got anything to do? I said, I'm bored. I just retired from the, Encore.
Yeah.
I should have never done that, boy. I got tied up in the dog business, but I had a lot of fun, and I miss him dearly. He was my brother from another mother.
I know it. As you told, Stephen was a man's man. That it was a good way to describe Stephen. Burly dude, but just a kind heart and
honest.
Yeah, and, he was. I thought the world of him, but that's the way.
At first, Luke, I didn't want to. I had some of the people that he'd get hogs from. They didn't want. They asked me, "Well, are you going to keep doing it?" And I said, "No." I said, "It's not going to be any fun without him." And because I'd see him every day just about. But his daughter, as he passed, was asking me if I'd do it. To keep. She wanted to keep it going. And I said I'd be honored to. I'll do my best.
Well, it's so folks. What Stephen does, the company, if you will, Kaufman County. It's east of Dallas, about 30-40 minutes. Kaufman County Wild Hog Buyers. So what you do, Stephen, you buy trapped hogs, live hogs. In other words, professional trapper or a guy like me or anybody that traps some hogs, brings them to you. I know in certain situations close by you can pick them up, but basically they need to think about getting the hogs that they trap to you. And then, you're not the only wild hog buyer. There's a network of wild hog buyers across Texas, and people can search them out. I mean, people are listening all over Texas, but there's probably a website that they could go to, I bet you, and find all the others,
Yeah. And you know what? Everyone I've met, that's one thing, Luke, that I've liked about this that keeps me doing it is the people. They're so nice and, just down to earth.
Yeah.
Good, hard-working, God-fearing people, that just, you like talking to them, being around.
Yep. Well, I did it. Our relationship started with I went out a couple of years ago, or maybe 3, I don't know, to do a story for the newspapers, and my column runs in about 51 newspapers, and I thought I'd like to inform the readers on what really happens with wild hogs, and I grew up on a farm in northeast Texas when I was little. My dad raised hogs, and he was a broiler chicken raiser is what he was, 14,000 of them every 9 weeks. But he also raised, 6 or 8 hogs a year. He would sell about 4, and we'd butcher a couple or 3, So wild hogs has always been a commodity to me. They have value. A hog, pork. Wild hog is pork just like a domestic hog. It's all, but it's just muscled up because it has to work for a living. It doesn't spend its life in a pen eating corn, or eating feed. So,
right.
Yeah. So when I wanted to let people know that there is a method. You don't have to shoot your pile of dead hogs, and now if you're hunting them with shooting them, you need to eat them. Or I know that people can't eat every hog they kill. I get that. I get it. But I do love to see that wild pork put to use, and they bring them to you. And tell our folks what happened. You pay them depending on the size of the hog, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens then is I'll hold them I don't like to hold them over a week.
Yeah.
Because they don't do well in captivity very long.
No.
So the buyer or the guy that runs that packing house, in fact, he came by today, or I met him in Athens today.
Yeah.
He comes by once a week, and I sell them, to him.
Yeah.
And he'll use them for his factory, or he'll sell them to big game ranches and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
sell them to hunting ranches, or he has a processing company in Henderson, I think, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And
he
so,
does. His name is Cullen.
Yeah.
And he just started, I guess maybe a year ago, but
yeah.
he's doing good. Good young man. He's like Stephen, honest, hardworking,
Yeah.
And he's nice to work with, And that's the thing about it, Luke. Like I said again, the people I've met, I have not met one person that was not really just, really nice and concerned about their problem and, made it easy for me to explain to them or try to help them, about the hog. I mean, I'm still learning that they're a quizzical animal. I mean, they are just something else. You just, you deal with them every day, and you start to understand them a little bit, but
you know what?
You don't know them.
I know. I've written a book on hogs, and not that I'm an authority, but I do love to hunt them. And I was raised up in Red River County between the Sulphur and the Red River, so I've been around hogs way before they started getting popular hunting them back in the 80s or 70s. There was hogs on those river drainages there back in those days. But a hog, I've tell people, a hog, I'm not sure can't think. In other words, reason to a degree. Where a white-tailed deer, when you spook him, it's run. That's all he. But a hog, and especially when you play around, I'm an amateur trapper, but I trap a few each year just for meat and fun, really. But I'm not sure that a hog can't figure things out way better than most people think they can,
Well, we have a saying sometimes about leaving a trap there too long or something in a place.
Yeah.
Call it trap savvy. They get trap savvy.
Yeah.
What they do is they won't go back to it,
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, you'll see the little ones, man, they'll run in the trap real quick. But those big old boars and sows, a lot of times they just hang back and say, "Okay, stupid, let's see what happens."
Yeah, yeah, you're right. When you there a lot of traps, especially the cell phone activated, drop gate traps. They have cameras on them, live cameras. And how many times have you watched those things? And those little young ones that just run right in there. And of course, there's somebody watching that. They get notified on their cell phone, and they've hit the button, and that gate falls. Well, they'll wait and wait and wait and wait, and sometimes they don't even drop the gate. There'll be 10 little ones in there, and 4 or 5 big ones that won't
You're
go
exactly
in.
right. You're exactly right. They'll be outside the trap, just milling around watching.
Yeah,
and you might get one go in, and you might not get any of them to go in.
It's fun trapping them. I have just a little small trap. Larry Weissoon and I and Jeff Rice, who produces our TV show called A Sportsman's Life, I've told this on the air many times, but we trapped 4 little pigs at one time, and they all 3 of them wedged their head on those vertical bars. It was a heavy-duty aluminum trap, weighed about 55 pounds. I've still got the trap. And you talking about, it was a zoo, a circus trying to get those hogs out of there, those pigs.
I'm telling you. We one time picked some up at the golf course, and I thought, well, it'll be 3 or 4 or something.
Yeah.
But it's a little box trap.
Yeah.
And they had wedged. It was like the ones inside had opened the gate to get them in there. I don't know how they all got in there. There was 15 or 20 in a small trap.
Oh.
They had to just one right after another. It was amazing.
It is. I want to get you back some, Mark, because wild hogs, Well, I wrote a book about it, and Larry Weissoon and I jointly wrote a book about hunting wild hogs. We call them the poor. Here's a term for you: poor man's grizzly. They got that's Larry and another guy, John Wayne Fears and Johnny Hudman. Years ago, they were hunting up on the Clear Fork of the Brazos, and I think Johnny said they saw a big old boar, and he said, "Yeah, that's a poor man's grizzly." It's a pretty good term for a big old boar, too.
It is. It really is.
So, Mark, tell people now, if someone's listening up in Arkansas or South Texas, they're not going to be able to bring hogs to you. But
Right.
isn't there a website, the animal? I don't know if you know it offhand, but you can research and find trapping station or buying stations all over Texas, can't you?
Right, and I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
Like I said, my buddy Steven handled all
Yeah,
that.
I know.
But yes, you are correct. And right now, since I was in just the start of this, because of his passing, it's still under Stephen Wall, Coffin Wild Hog Buyer.
Yeah, right.
Because his daughter Haley she's going to move back. She's up in Colorado. She's going to move back in a couple of months, and she might want to take it over, or she might want me to keep doing it. So we're kind of in transition right now. But I'm taking anything that that people want to, that they don't want to mess with, because I know it's a pest and they destroy your property. And I feel good about it, because I feel like I'm helping people get rid of a problem.
You're serving a good service there. Let's do this, Mark. Leave a phone number if you like, where people could call you. If they might be in East Texas or wherever, they may not know a place to sell their hogs, so you'll buy them. I mean,
I sure will, and I would love to help anybody out. Like I said, I retired. I can't go like I used to. But I now I'm kind of, it was a big hit losing Steven. And now I'm kind of getting that urge, to really try and see if I can carry this on in his name,
You're doing a good job, Mark. Folks, Mark's going to give you a phone number. If you got some wild hogs you want to sell, take them to him. He'll take care of you. What's that number, Mark?
It's 214-762-3871.
For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramid Air. The website is PYRAMYD, pyramidair.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember pyramidair.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, cva.com. Kubi's Wild Game Processing and Kubi's Restaurant in Dallas, and Vineyard Max, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Folks, I want to introduce you to some good friends of mine at Dash for Cash Pawn Shop in Seagoville, Texas, located at 133 Hall Street. The phone number is 972-287-3121. Go by there and talk with Gary or Randy, the owner. They're great people. They've got some great prices. Again, that's the Dash for Cash Pawn Shop, Seagoville, Texas, 972-287-3121. Well, friends, this is Luke, and I hope you've enjoyed our show thus far. I always learn something from each and every guest, even folks that's been on our show on a regular basis. They'll bring up something that I didn't know. I hope you learned something too, and I hope you have fun listening every week. I've got time in today's show to tell you what I think is a very comical story. Now, this happened to me about 40 years ago when I was a fledgling outdoor writer. I just started writing for a couple of newspapers, no magazines, none of that, no books. I was selling stories to the Hart Hanks newspapers out of the Dallas area there. And I made friends with a gentleman that owned Squaw Mountain Hunting Ranch. It's up in Jack County. It's still a great hunting ranch. But back then, Ed was the guy that owned it. And I'd hunted enough and written about our hunts in the newspapers, and Ed trusted me, so he'd kind of give me the keys to that place, literally, even when he wasn't around. So this happened in August. It was hot. I never will forget. Ed had to go up in Colorado to a ranch he had up there, and I was down there, just Ed and I. He took me out, and I was going to hunt hogs that evening. So. Here's the way it unfolded. It was hot in August, so you don't really hunt hogs. They don't move a lot in the heat until later in the day. I knew that. So about 3 in the afternoon, Ed takes me. We drive back there in my pickup back on the ranch, and he was going to show me where to hunt. He had a spot that he thought I could kill a hog that evening. Well, we drove back, and there was a pond, maybe an acre and a half pond, and on this pond was a slanting rock. The rock went out under the water, a long slanting rock. Well, so he had some field-dressed animals, the remains of them, that he goes on this rock and throws it out in the water, and there were 3 big alligators. Well, the stand that I was hunting was 80 yards away up in a tree, a lean-to ladder stand. That's where I was going to come back later that afternoon, about 5 o'clock, and set in that stand and hopefully shoot a hog over a nearby corn feeder. That was the plan. Well, he takes this bucket of, we'll just call it trimmings from some animals that he'd butchered there on the place, some exotics, and he dumps that out off of that rock into the water. We look out there, and there are 3 V's coming toward that from different areas of that little pond. And those were alligators. He had names for each one of them, and he fed them right there almost on a daily basis off that rock. Well, I thought, whoa, wow, this is wild. These gators come up there and gobble down the trimmings, we'll say, that he put in that out of those buckets that he poured in the water, and then they just disappeared. I don't know where they went under and went back to wherever they live, So then I go back to the camp, get back in that ladder stand 80 yards from the rock. Right there's a corn feeder, used to be a corn feeder right there. Now, Larry Weissoon was the kind of the PR guy for Thompson Center, and it all about the Contender. I had a Contender in 730 waters. That's a caliber that, I don't know, I liked it a lot. And I could shoot it well. Had a scope on that Contender, a handgun with a long barrel. I know a lot of you know what a Contender is. Still around. So I crawl up in that ladder stand. It's probably about 6 o'clock, honestly, when I get all situated. And sat there, and I'm grateful when the sun disappears over the horizon, because it was getting hot in August in Jack County, Texas. Didn't see a thing. A few birds chipping around. Saw a covey of quail. I remember that. Came right under me. So I'm sitting there about half asleep, and here, just before dark, it was probably, I don't know, in the summertime, it was probably 8 o'clock, something like that. I see a form coming out of the woods. It's a boar, a jet black boar. And I think, okay, all right, so here's my chance. Now, remember, I'm down there at the Squaw Mountain Ranch by myself. Ed he turned it over to me. He was coming back later that night, or the next morning, I think. But anyway, I'm by myself. So I've got that TC Contender, and I'm all fired up. And here comes the boar. Guess where the boar comes? Hogs have an awesome sense of smell. he had smelled where Ed, on that rock, on that flat rock, where Ed had dumped those trimmings from those exotic animals in the water and fed those gators. Well, you may have already figured this out. The boar stopped up on the high ground, high end of that rock. He was probably, 10 feet from the water's edge. Well, I took that 730 Waters contender, leaned it. I was up in a tree, mind you, in a ladder stand. I leaned it on my leg there where I could get a good steady hold. Bam, and I shot that boar. It was an 80-yard shot. I was very proud, man. I'd killed my first animal with a handgun, and it was the first thing I'd ever shot with a handgun. So that little boar, he wasn't a big hog. He might have weighed 100 pounds max. He starts kicking, as they often do. The shot was good. It killed the hog. He kicked, and I said, oh, no, that rock was slanting down toward the water. Well, he kicked and kicked and kicked, and by then I'm down out of the tree, out of my ladder stand, and I've walked the 80 yards. I'm over there by the hog. Just as I get there, he kicks himself into the water. He wasn't 4 feet out in the water. I saw the bubbles coming up, and the water was only about, 3 foot deep right there. If there were a video of this, folks, it would be one of the funniest videos. It would make the headlines. Here I am. Back in the day, I was all about the meat. I want that hog, and I want it bad. So I'm out there a million miles from any other human being. I strip off on that flat rock. That's what I did. Shoes, pants, shirt, the whole, almost everything. And I think, I've got to get that hog. But how about those alligators? There's 3 of them. So I'm thinking, will they smell this hog, or are they, where are they? Well, I remember that there was a little logic to this. When he had started feeding them, though, they made the V's come into it. And there was no V's, no nothing. I got to have my hog. Now, was it the sanest thing I ever did? Probably not. But I eased my feet out, barefooted, ease out, stick a foot in that water. Okay, I'm going to get this hog. I could see the bubbles still. He wasn't 5 feet out in that 3 foot deep water. I'm feeling along with my feet. Folks, there's some things in life you'll forget. I will not forget my left foot touched that boar's snout with those little, he didn't have many cutters, but I do remember vividly my foot hitting that snout and hitting those teeth. And there was a bolt of electricity went through me. Whoa, did I find the hog? Well, common sense told me, yes, that's the hog. The bubbles were right there. Anyway, the way I wrapped this story up, I reached down. By then, I put my foot on the hog. I knew it was the hog. I reached down, grabbed him, and come out of that water, drug him up on that rock and field dressed him. Took him back to the headquarters and quartered him up, put him in my ice chest, and went back to Mesquite, Texas, where I lived at the time. But if you kick around the outdoors a long time, you'll do stuff like this. I guarantee you, if all of you look back, think back, if you've been doing this as long as I have, you can think of a million funny things that happened to you. Thought you might enjoy that little story, but old Luke made it home with some very fresh pork. The little boar wound up on my barbecue pit and was the centerpiece of a really fine meal for a bunch of people. Folks, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember, you can contact me anytime through my website. It's catfishradio.org. My email is on there. My email is actually my name, Luke Clayton, Clayton, 1950 @gmail.com. Fire me an email. You might want to be a guest on this show, and if you do, I promise you I will get back with you and we'll get you on. How about that? Be safe in the outdoors, and happy, happy, happy New Year to everyone. Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you've had a good time too. And folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring.